Week, and that is what we do every Friday, looking back on the week, and we're joined this time by SABC digital news producer Biko Moche. Great to have you with us.
Thanks very much.
All right, so let's start with the big commemoration this week, Steve Biko, and 40 years, and it seems like it has resonance because of the talk of economic emancipation. Are we really free? Did you find that on social media?
Well, Francis, on social media, people were focusing more on what Biko stood for and quotes that are popular, quotes that are associated with Biko, saying today we need leaders like him, comparing Steve Biko to President Jacob Zuma. Some of them have compared President Jacob Zuma to Steve Biko, and others are saying, well, that
in what way?
Saying Steve Biko was a leader with morals, and President Jacob Zuma lacks morals, and they wish that they could
so it's an unfavorable comparison.
Yes, and some of them saying, well, we wish that we could have more leaders like Steve Biko, leaders who are not self-centered, leaders who will have the best interest of the country before their own. And as you can see here on social media, this tweet says, "The Steve Biko I know said, we believe in our country. There shall be no minority, there shall not be majority, there shall be people."
Yeah, he stood for non-racialism. And 40 years ago, young people who are on social media, how aware are they of Steve Biko, of his legacy, of the history? Can you gauge that by the level of interaction? Would you say it was high or not?
Certainly it was not, because if you look at most of the tweets that were circulating on Twitter, people only were focusing on Biko's quotes rather than what he stood for, and some of them they just retweeting. Even if I can just mention this, there was a tweet from the DA which was associated with Biko, and actually it was not Steve Biko's quote, and that is the
interesting.
Yes, that is some of the things that we saw on Twitter. People just associating some of the quotes with him just because he was known for powerful quotes.
Yeah, so people are interested in who he was, but not necessarily remembering all the history, a bit of shallow interaction. Okay, then the president with whom he was compared, contrasted, his lawyers were in court, and quite a stunning concession yesterday from his lawyers. Were people following that legal precedent being set?
Certainly, people were following that, and most of them were saying the president legal team knew from the onset that they did not stand a chance to convince the Supreme Court of Appeal that the charges against President Jacob Zuma should not be pursued. They knew that this was a losing case from the beginning, and some say because this case has no chance of succeeding, President Jacob Zuma should face the law just like any other person in the country, and saying he must stop wasting taxpayers' money. And as you can see on the screen there's a tweet saying, "Sherman, wherever Mukuteri Mche is, I bet he's not liking how the spy tape saga is playing out," because there was harsh comments from the judge that were made.
So let's just clarify, he's the former head of the National Prosecuting Authority, whose decision 9 years ago or so has now been found to be irrational. Let's look at another one, 783 charges for only one person. Talking about powers over morals. I know that we also ran a poll at SABC, and people were saying he should face the law, like you said. Was that the overriding sentiment?
Definitely. Even now, even today, when you check on Twitter, when you check for the latest tweets with the hashtag spy tapes, the sentiment is that President Jacob Zuma must, because he's been saying he believes that he's innocent. Now, why is he avoiding a day in court? Because this is the only way that he will be vindicated. This is the only way that he will clear his name. Because if he keeps on avoiding facing his charges at the court, this cloud will hang over his head for the rest of his life.
I think at one stage he said he wanted his day in court, but everybody's skeptical of that given the length of time.
Yes.
Then what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal, I think, is very difficult to understand. It's ANC leadership battles. How do people react to what happened this week?
People are having fun. Yeah. Although it's a serious matter, but you know, social media, they can comicalize everything and anything. Although we know that the ruling will be appealed. They said they will. The PEC, KZN PEC said they were going to appeal. Social media users are saying, well, this is one of the many examples that comes to mind that shows that the center is not holding. Some even are saying, well, because we know that Dr. Makosi Koza, outspoken ANC MP, is going to a disciplinary hearing this weekend, saying, well, because now that the court has ruled against the 2015 conference, Makosi Koza must not appear before the DC because that conference has been nullified. And that is the general sentiment that this decision, the court decision, will work in Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa's favor.
So it's linking to that national politics and the presidential battle that we're seeing playing out. Finally, very quickly, Trevor Noah congratulated this week for his Emmy. It did seem to be a really an outpouring confirming his popularity locally and globally.
Yes, and most of the tweets were saying, despite whatever we're going through as a country, we have people like Trevor Noah who are shining the flag, who are flying the SA flag high, saying, and as you can see with this tweet, saying, Trevor Noah, you better thank your ancestors. Anyway, congratulations to your Emmy. SA is very proud, and there's a lot who's looking up to you. And that is the general sentiment, that he must keep shining, the country's behind him, and we wish that there could be more of Trevor Noahs that will fly the SA flag high.
All right, thank you so much. Tsetipa Moche from SABC's Digital News, and we'll have some global news after the break, if you can stay with us.